Hi, I'm Violet Parsons-Peck, the Assistant Superintendent with Canadian Rockies Public Schools. On September the 28th, we had a community engagement meeting to discuss the alignment and improvement of our two high schools within the district. Following presentations by the principal of Banff Community High School and Canmore Collegiate, we had several group discussions involving teachers, parents, students, and administrators. We asked each group to discuss 3 questions. Number 1, what do we need to maintain at our high schools to ensure that we have high quality learning opportunities for students? The second question that we had people discuss was in regards to their fears. In other words, what do you not want our high schools to look like as we face our challenges to education in the Bow Valley? The third question that they were tasked with is what are some blue sky ideas for maintaining or improving high school education in the Bow Valley? If we could have whatever we wanted, what would it be? We are compiling all of the ideas brought forward, and they will be available on our website in the near future. For those of you that were unable to attend the SEND meeting that took place on September 28, we created this video and placed it on our webpage so that you could have knowledge of what is being said and done within our school district. We want to thank you for taking the time to watch this video and to offer us any feedback in relationship to the 3 questions or anything in relationship to the process that we are embarking upon. Thank you.
Really inspiring hearts and minds, you folks know it's kind of our motto, kind of our vision, but really inspiring hearts and minds is a process that our board engaged in, a generative thinking process to engage and consult with stakeholders such as our parents, our staff, our students, to see where we move in different directions in changing times when we have crucial decisions we have to make, or just some ideas that we have within a system. And so to give you some examples of things we've done in the past, just in my 4 years, one would have been the grade reconfiguration for Lawrence Grassy, where we moved grade 4s from Elizabeth Rummel to Lawrence Grassy. Many staff were involved and parents were involved in that process, anywhere from 50 to 60 people. And we went through a lengthy process before that shift was done, going through a variety of different iterations before we came to a final decision. We also do it with our calendar. That's one of the big ones we have that comes up every 3 years. And we've also done ones around communication and one other one that I'm trying to remember. When I first came, it was about, there was one they had in my first few months here, and it was about keeping our school division vibrant, and it was when we were in pretty tough financial situation back then. So these are the types of things that the IHM process and the SEND engagement has engaged in the past 4 years. Now, this topic today, and it'll continue discussions through this year, is aligning and talking about our high schools. Now, we know right now within this school division we have 2 phenomenal high schools. And our objective is to keep them that way, both. And within that, we want to look at how we can maintain the things we have, but also look at opportunities to grow and become better and do things differently. Times are changing. So it's an opportunity for us to look at these different types of things moving into the future and keeping both of those schools vibrant and moving forward, but again, adding and doing better for our students within the entire valley. So that's kind of the objective today. It's not about students changing schools, it's not about closing schools, it's about making both of our schools more vibrant. End of that piece. That's what you're getting from myself, so you know. The people we want to engage are you to ask, so we can ask and get some ideas on how we can get better together and collaborate. Because we don't do a lot of it between our 2 high schools now. So that we feel now is an opportune time because we've been doing some stuff back and forth. Is there more we can do? So with that, I'm gonna just do a couple of introductions here for some of you who don't know. Many of you, I know most of our staff's here, but we also have some of our students here. Can we get our students to put up their hands who are here? Awesome, fantastic. Thank you so much for coming. Your voice is valuable and it's needed in this conversation. So thank you for coming. And also we have our entire board is here. Our entire board's here, yes? So we have our board chair, Carol, and our vice chair, Arlene, Canmore and Banff, and Leanne, Jennifer, and Luke are here today. So that's wonderful that they're here part of the conversation. Because this process is actually generated from the board. And we have almost all of our principals here today, and they'll be working with you and listening and recording the discussions that'll happen afterwards. But to that effect, I want to be part of those discussions, and I want to stay up, and I want to listen. And so we brought in a facilitator to help us through that process. You heard his teacher voice getting y'all to come down here right away. Mr. Delvicky is a former superintendent in Foothills, deputy superintendent in Wolf Creek, and a variety of other school divisions throughout the province, and his wife still teaches down in Okotoks, isn't it? High River, sorry. So Del's going to lead us through this process tonight, and we've seen what we're looking at, and I'm going to turn it over to Del. I don't think I missed anything here, did I? No, our principals are all here, and our two high school guys that have contributed. So I'll turn it over to you, Del. Thanks for coming, appreciate it.
I'm going to use the microphone if that's okay. Test. Hello?
Hello. Hello. Is that okay? Does that work? Okay. I'm gonna use the microphone if that's okay, because I did a workshop on Sunday night and Monday, and I don't know if my voice will continue to carry. I can still do my school-based administrator voice, like, hey, everybody get into the auditorium, but other than that, I just need to talk. Thanks, Chris, and thanks for the invitation. You made it look like I can't hold a job. That's not true. I have been able to hold a job, but I like my current one. I'm currently the Director of Leadership Learning for the College of Alberta School Superintendents. That sounds pretty important, but the thing I love about my job is that I get up in the morning, drink a cup of coffee, and work in my pajamas. And if I have a video conference, I put on a nice shirt, but I keep my pajama bottoms on, so it's a great way to work. Chris asked me to come over here and help facilitate this. I want to make a couple of things very, very clear at the outset. Number one, I'm not here as an expert. The expertise about education in the Bow Valley is in the room. And my job, if it's successful, is that every one of you gets to say whatever it is you think ought to be heard and understands the process in a meaningful way. So my focus will simply be on process, making sure this works. There are tons of people in the room that could do what I'm doing, but they wanted to listen to you. And it's tough to run the process and listen to the people that are engaged in the conversations at the same time. So that's why I'm here, to make sure that things run in an expedient manner. So as Chris talked about, this is part of the board's continuing commitment to public engagement. They should be commended for that. And what they want to do today is to inform the public about the current situation regarding secondary education in Bow Valley. The second thing they want to accomplish is to engage you in a community dialogue about the circumstances, and in order to kind of guide future directions and perhaps some actions within some individual schools and within the division. And it's also to assist the board in their decision-making processes. They like to hear from the public so that they can make sure that their priorities are met in a way that ensures the benefits of all students. So, the principles of this evening, we think there's a moral imperative involved. We think it's important to inform parents throughout the system of some of the issues. And we need parents and the community to understand some of the realities and challenges that are facing Canadian Rockies, and they're not unique to Canadian Rockies. And certainly in my position, I know that there's lots of challenges in every school division. And if anybody tells you, well, my school division doesn't have any challenges, they're lying. Also, if we want to take that opportunity, taking a look at our current situation to say, are there ways that we can be strategic with our resources to continue to enhance what we already have? And this school division, talking to the principals over the last little while, has done some phenomenally innovative things. And I think that you should be commended for that. You have two outstanding schools. And it's a way of trying to make sure that you do not lose what you have and perhaps enhance it. The third thing that I wanted to make sure is that when we look at anything that anybody in the audience might suggest as a way forward, there's three lenses that we're going to look through it. The first lens and the most important lens is it good for kids? And that's what it has to be. It has to be what's best for kids at the front end. The second lens, however, was very important to all of the board and to the division office team, is to make sure that you have a strong, viable educational presence in both schools. If it doesn't do that, it's not going forward. The third lens is, can we afford it within the fiscal realities? And so unlike a Meatloaf song, 2 out of 3 is bad. All three of those things have to be considered before anything moves forward. And so it's very important that whatever suggestions, whatever blue sky suggestions that you make goes through these lenses. There's an old saying that anything is possible, but everything isn't. And so feel free to be bold, feel free to think differently, but understand at the end of the day, there may be some choices that may have to be made. And they have to be made on this basis. And I think they're solid. I think the basis is very solid. So the overview of the evening is we'll give a quick division perspective, and then give you the key question and let you think about it. And then I'm going to do a little bit of an overview of the process that we're going to undergo. We're going to hear from the two principals of the two high schools, and they're the ones that are certainly best situated to talk about their realities. And then finally, we're going to engage in the dialogue. So I'm hoping that within the next 12 minutes or so, we're starting the conversation. And we want to give a good hour plus to listening to what you have to say. But we want to make sure that we listen to what you have to say in an informed way. So we think it's important to bring you up to speed on some of the issues first. So the divisional perspective, the board has this ongoing need to engage in general dialogue with their community. They've done it numerous times before, as Mr. McPhee mentioned, with the calendar and other types of issues. They feel like this is an issue that needs to be brought to your attention. The high school situation is not unlike any high school situation and many high school situations in the province. Significant to the Bow Valley is that you have more international students probably than most school jurisdictions. And if I was an international student, I'd probably want to come here too. It's a beautiful place. You have more First Nations students than you've had in the past. You have more English language learners than you have in the past. And you have fewer resident students than you have in the past. And the experience of this board, quite frankly, is that the more information that they give to the public, the better it is. The more information they give to the parents, the more likely parents are going to become advocates and understand the position. So they're very much into transparency. And there's an old saying that says, in the absence of information, people will make up their own story. We don't want to, when we talked about this, we always erred on giving more information than less. So our reality in the Bow Valley is not unlike any other community. The schools are more diverse than ever, like they are in all parts of the province. And that's great. That's wonderful. That's what we need. But it does require some change. It does put pressure on certain elements of the program. And so we subscribe to the theory that if we don't, those who fail to plan to fail. If we don't put some plans in place to make our future better, then we're doomed to not be as successful in the future. So the key point is, if we do nothing, if we sit idly by and let these trends continue and absolutely do nothing, there will be a reduced flexibility within the programming at these two fine schools. And so we're looking for ideas, we're looking for ways forward. So the key question, and I want you to be thinking of this question while the principals give their brief presentation, is how can we continue to improve our quality of education to meet the needs of Bow Valley High School students in the face of the challenges that the principals outlined? That's the key question. So, tonight's public engagement is not a one-off, right? It's the beginning of a process. There's going to be a consultation process that will include the following groups. The principals will conduct a similar activity with their staff and get their staff perspectives. They're going to conduct it with their students. They're going to conduct it with their school councils, all following a very similar format. For those unable to attend this meeting, the division will be providing a web-based mechanism that you can simply go to the website and put your opinion in. If you're like me and on your way home you go, oh, I wish I would have said that, then go to the web-based mechanism and say that. It will be open for a long time. So continue to give your feedback. And I think the process will be, you'll find, very, very respectful of the process of learning, where people go from an awareness to an issue, to an understanding of the issue, and from the understanding they become committed to the solutions. We want people to be informed. So at the end of the day, we're not talking about commitments tonight. We're talking to make sure that you're aware and that you fully understand the issue and that we get the input from you to move forward and consider some options. Okay? Later on in the process, we'll start talking in February about what types of things do you think will work. So, the data from the meeting tonight will go to a steering committee that will consist of both school principals, a couple of staff members from each school, school council reps, two students from each school, and a division office rep. And what they will be doing is they'll meet at least 3 times, they'll take all of this data, and they'll try to come up with a series of recommendations to present to the public. Remember, any of these recommendations have to go through the 3 criteria. Is it good for kids? Is it good for both schools? Is it affordable? February 17th is the timeline to have another public engagement meeting and bring forward the recommendations that the steering committee brought forward. And we do need the steering committee, as I'm sure as you're aware, to be somewhat nimble, but be representative. I mean, if you wanted to make it really nimble, you put the 2 principals in a room and tell them they can't come out until they come up with something. But that's not very consultative, and we want to have the best possible process. And then the plan is on March 2017 that the recommendations that after they get the feedback from the public would be presented to the board as information. The principals have also committed that this is not an ad hoc committee, that this committee should continue to meet, and that we continue to engage students and staff going forward on some of the changes that may be looming on the horizon going forward. So, I'm going to turn you over to the principal of Banff High School, Community High School, Mr. Green. He's going to give a little bit of background with regard to Banff Community High School.
Thanks, Doug. Sure, I can click it. I'm not going to use the mic. With looking at who's in the room, I'm not going to say anything that most of you don't already know. Having said that, however, we are videotaping and wanting to put this on the website as well, so I'm still going to go through everything that I prepped, and Mr. Rogers will do the same. What we're going to try to give is some basic overviews of the buildings. We're similar in a lot of respects in terms of what we're offering and where are some of the differences and challenges within the building. So as you see right here, the structure of our school right now, 7 to 12. As you know, that's about to change as Banff Elementary School is well underway in terms of its construction, and we right now are projected to be a 9 to 12 school for the first time in 2 years from now. Again, part of what we're working towards as a district is that's an opportunity in and of itself that we now have 2 schools that are 9 and 12 in their demographics. As BES becomes a K-8 school, how are we very intentionally looking at that as well? So I see it that Banff Community High School right now is not just the concept of looking at 2 schools, we're really looking at 3 and needing to plan for 3. So that steering committee becomes very, very important, as does our work with Banff Elementary School to make sure that we're planning and looking forward to the future of that school, not only going K-7 next year, as long as construction is completed on time and on schedule, but the following year being a K-8 school. Some of the programming we have within our building, our international programs have been discussed, our in-reach and outreach program that both schools have in terms of supporting students and their work. The Hockey Academy and what that brings to our building every year. The majority of those students are grades 10 to 11, and then if they decide to graduate with us, obviously grade 12. We do have some grade 9s that come into our building each year. Bow Valley College and dual credit has become a very integral part of our process, working with partnerships and creating more for students in terms of, again, opportunity and what their futures can hold. And we've got some great examples right up here of students that are part of that dual credit program and have some amazing experiences with working in hospitals that they might not ever have had if the dual credit program didn't start. So their practical and their placements are phenomenal with the partnerships that have been created. And then continuing our K-Rocks Outdoor Learning Center and the work that we have with that to create, being a school and a community in the mountains, it just begs that we have a program that is well known across the province and it's continuing to grow and help us with sustainability in the district. Right now there's our population, again in the future going to be a 9 to 12 school. Our demographics, we have in the building right now 83 that are identified as English language learners, also 32 that are from out of country. That being our international program students that are new to the building and or part of the Banff Hockey Academy. Thanks, Del. Programs that we have, again, you're going to see similarity between both of the schools. It's the whole child. And we've talked about how we've got 2 amazing schools, so we're trying to provide opportunities that students have that build them as young individuals that are going to go out into the world. So food through the lens, our travel club, art, drama, performing arts, music, industrial education, media design, and then of course rap and work experience opportunities as well. Our students get the process that they're giving back to community in their work world and what we can do to support them with work experience credits. Some of the challenges and opportunities, and I just spoke to this, but the awareness that we are fluid right now in our building as we look at processes that we can do with the high schools, but also what we need to be aware of within our elementary redesign. That changes the demographic in our school simply because of that. What do we want to grow and maintain? Again, that outdoor ed that I just spoke of, dual credit, the partnerships that we have. Our community has stepped up year after year after year in so many different ways, and we're fortunate in that regard. Our long-standing relationships just continue to amaze us with what our community will do and step up for us as it relates to partnerships. Part of that opportunity and challenge is the idea of balancing both academic and broad-based programming in our building. We have kids that are amazingly busy, and for them to stay balanced and feeling that way is very, very important to us. So how do we timetable for them? What can that look like in the future is central to what we're talking about tonight. Thanks, Doug. And then where are we in terms of, again, that broad-based, the in-reach and outreach allows us for flexibility in our building on site. I think is very, very important to help kids through what they're working on. We have piloted last year and are working within it this year again, the idea of a learning commons and how are we working as a team to support our kids and their needs in our building, and we want to continue to grow that. The idea of extracurricular, again, volunteerism in our community, not only down in the Bow Valley is amazing. The give back is outstanding. One thing I want to talk about, hang on, Deb. One thing I want to talk about is an example of some of the challenges we face. As some of our learning gaps get wider, and it's our reality, An example of that is our humanities. 6 years ago, all of our humanities were blended, meaning English and social at the high school level was -1 and -2. That's simply something we had to address. As we move forward, we need to continue to address it. But that's an example of why do some of our option numbers then become small. As we get better and do some things and change some things in terms of offering more, so our -1s and 2 are separated because we need to do that, that's actually jamming some of our timetable because we're actually adding more courses to it. When we have more courses inside the timetable, what is it up against? When it gets up against some of our option courses, it's creating conflict for students in their timetabling that they no longer can take as many option courses within the timetable. So there's an example of we're doing some great things in our timetabling, but it's also causing a ripple. So looking towards the future, how do we address that? Because we do have some really small option size classes in our building that are running right now. It's our reality. Okay, so there's an example. How do we then work with and collaborate with collegiate to create more opportunities for our kids? Both schools. Okay, thanks. That's where we're at.
Thanks, Steve. I'm going to take the quick with her, Dell, because I'm a little fit for this. Thank you. All right. All right, I'm going to speak stage right. Is it stage right? Am I have some right there? It's stage right.
Yeah, stage right.
Awesome, thanks. I'm going to speak stage right so people over on this side get their money's worth. Steve has already gone through a lot of the stuff, and you'll see a lot of commonalities between what we have in our schools. And so hopefully I won't need a Harry Potter time turner to meet Dell's 12-minute promise of getting down to work here. But I'll be pretty quick. But you'll see a lot of commonalities, which is great. It's a good starting place. There's a lot of things that we do share, and it's a good building block for moving forward. But I'm really excited by the process. People who know me know that I love asking why. Why are we doing what we're doing? Why not try this? And reflecting on our practice and seeing what we can do to improve our practice, to improve learning for students. And so I'm really excited to hear the different perspectives offered in terms of where we can go. But I'm just going to set the stage really quick. Canmore Collegiate's got kind of an eclectic mix going on here. High school, Alton Middle School is an alternative K-6 program that's in our school. It's in its fourth year. It's in its fourth year. And it's a Waldorf-inspired school that uses nature immersion, so our students are outside a lot, but they are in our school. They become a part of the culture of our school. International Student Program, Inreach Outreach Pathways is a program for students who are wishing to pursue either sport or music or drama or different aspects of what they're passionate about at a high level. And it's mostly sports students we have right now, but we have had equestrian students that are there. I guess that's sport. So that's a part of our program, offers some flexibility. Bow Valley College, and Steve has spoken well of the outdoor learning piece. Population of our school, read that. You can see that we have currently 65 First Nation students, 53 international students, and about 109 Alpha. So we have quite an eclectic mix here. So our demographic is definitely shifting. We're seeing a shift. We're having more international students, more First Nation students, and so the mix of our populations is changing quite dramatically. Programs, those are all ones that Steve has spoken to. Agriculture, mechanics, and commercial foods are some things that are offered here that currently aren't at the Banff Community High School. Challenges and opportunities. If you'd seen in that number, we noticed a big bulge in grade 11. We have quite a large student population in our grade 11 class. It's our biggest class by far. And that, as it kind of cascades its way through the timetable, and we'll go forward again next year in grade 12, and then suddenly when that big bulge goes, it's going to redistribute kind of what we're doing in the school. Changing demographic, outdoor leadership. How do we grow and maintain? CROAK, and things that we love throwing acronyms around. So if you see any acronyms, please just let us know what does that stand for. CROAK is Canadian Rockies Outdoor Learning Center. And so as we go through this process, we sometimes see acronyms so much that we don't even see them anymore. So please at any time say, hey, what's that mean? So working with the Outdoor Learning Center to make sure that we're taking advantage of all the resources that we have in a strategic manner and offering the most that we can for our students. So some challenges there. French immersion grade 9, how do we sustain that with our changing demographic? If I look at our grade 9 population, of the 108 that we have, about 45 are French immersion. So that tends to change the split in the class and the class sizes and how we can offer the courses moving forward. So there's certain challenges there that represents. Commercial foods. Our commercial foods program does an amazing job, but it has to get someone's funding from actually selling food that's created there. It's a commercial foods kitchen. And in recent years, we've had a lot more competition locally as some other food vendors have realized, hey, there's 500 students over there. Wow, what a great place to set up business. And we've noticed that competition. But it's something that we're responding well to. Deb Sellers in our foods program is an amazing program. We just started rolling out breakfast program in our school. It's the first time we've had that in our school. We did our first one on Monday. And a lot of work by staff, spearheaded by Deb Sellers. And the challenge is with how can we do that moving forward? And that's something that's arisen because we have this shifting demographic in our school and we've become aware that there's a need that we weren't filling. And we would love to work more closely with students in Banff and have them have some of that opportunity as well. Mechanics, small numbers in our senior classes. We'd like to open up the opportunity for mechanics to other students in the Valley. I know certainly Mr. Martin is excited by the prospect of looking at ways we can work more closely to offer some of those opportunities for students. Drama, performing arts, it's growth area. It's starting to get revived here again in Canmore Collegiate. There's a renewed interest. Certainly in Banff Community High School, they've had a strong drama program for the last few years and doing some amazing work there. And our teachers have been working collaboratively. And we've been learning a lot from what they have offered there to the benefit of our students. Certainly, we'd love to open up some of the opportunities that the Banff students have working at the Banff Center, especially on the behind the stage scene with some of the technical aspects, which in our small theater we just simply can't offer to our students. Music is one of those sacred things we love to protect and honor because it's so important. And we've watched it kind of shrink over the years to the point where we now only have one music class in our timetable, and most of the music we have offered is outside timetable. The arts are so important to our students' education, and we have to find ways to protect those. And so those are challenges moving forward, and I think there's opportunities there for growth. AP Biology and French, we're looking at doing some AP courses, and AP is just advanced placement. And it's essentially courses that you take that are university level courses. And so we think there's a lot of opportunity there for our students moving forward. Partnership, we started working, as you saw on the kickoff day, we celebrated our partnership with the Stoney Education Authority and working with our neighbors in Morley, at the Morley School. And one of the things we're doing here at Collegiate is in the process of working with the Morley School to offer Stoney language for our students here in the school. And our students have expressed a very keen interest in learning Stoney. And so we're working, and Kevin Dick with our tech department has been working very closely with the tech department on the Morley side to try and arrange a virtual classroom type setting so that instead of having to truck the students up and down the valley, truck the knowledge up and down the valley. And so those are ways we can collaborate in interesting ways and offer new opportunities for our students. In-reach and outreach in terms of flexibility, Steve has spoken to that. And extracurriculars, we could fill slide upon slide with extracurriculars. These are just a couple of current solids through the lens. Sport, that we have innovation clubs, we have a Stoney Culture Club, we have a dance club, we have Green Club, we have the GSA. So we've got a lot of different clubs, a lot of variety, and a lot of opportunity for collaboration both within and outside the classroom. So, for example, even just this week coming up with some of the activities our GSA club are doing is kind of making stronger connections in the valley. So, I believe that's it for me. I did need a time here and I wasn't that long.
So as you can see, there isn't really much of a status quo in what I talked about in terms of status quo, because the schools are continually trying to improve their programming. So I'll go back to the key question, and how can we continue to improve our quality of education to meet the needs of Bow Valley student residents in the face of the challenges. So your role is to represent the ideas of the public. And so to provide three answers to 3 questions. First question we're going to ask you is, what do we need to maintain at our high schools to ensure that we have high quality learning opportunities for all students? So what's vitally important that we cannot lose sight of as we move forward? Second question is, what are our fears? In other words, what do we not want our high schools to look like as we face some of these challenges going forward? So an opportunity for people to say, for gosh sakes, keep in mind that people are frightened of this or unsure about that or nervous about this. And the third one is, what are some of the blue sky ideas for maintaining or improving high school education in the Bow Valley? So that's the what if. That's the thinking differently. Have you considered? Maybe you have a friend or have a relative in another school jurisdiction that's doing something really neat, and you want to throw that out there and say, hey, consider this for our kids. This might make sense. You will be sitting at tables, but I want you to understand at this particular point, the administrators, the board, all of these people are not here to debate or to sell you on anything. They're here to listen. And so we need to know what we can't lose sight of going forward. That's going to be their key role. So as you're sitting at the table and you're giving your input, feel free to ask a question about the demographics or a question. But if you ask an opinion, they probably won't give you one. They're looking for your opinion. Okay? So make that, I wanted to make that clear at the front end. The process is that each table will have an administrator with a laptop, and it will record the discussion, the input from each person. So the facilitators, please make sure that every individual has a chance to contribute on each question. The table size we're recommending approximately 5, so 6 with a recorder. So we'll probably need about 7 tables when we go out there. It's recommended to have some diversity in the group, to have some richness in the conversation. You probably know what the person that you drove here with is thinking. Try to find out what somebody else is thinking. Students, it would be wonderful if you spread out, okay? Because I think it's important for everybody to hear a student perspective. At the first question, just a quick roundtable introduction, your name, which school community you're from, and what your role is, whether you're a staff member or parent, or a staff member and a parent. The last 5 minutes in each section, what I'm going to ask the recorders to do is to read back what they have, so that you can make sure that they've got the correct information that you gave them. And then we would go on to the next question. So question 1 we'll give 30 minutes to talk about. And I'll go out and read the question again. Question 2 is about the fears. That would be 25 minutes. And question 3, the blue sky ideas, would be 25 minutes. So we're looking at approximately a 9 o'clock finish. My job is to keep things on time. So I'll give you your 5-minute warnings, and I'll use my gym voice up there and make sure people have time to read back the input phase. And as I said, board and district personnel, some of them will remain after if you have further questions or ideas, and we will be letting the board chair close the meeting at 9 o'clock. So thank you for your participation. We know that your time is extraordinarily valuable, and we value that, and we want to make this as productive as possible. So we will be heading up to the foyer area, tables of 5 plus a recorder, and we will be dealing with the first question, which is what do we need to maintain at our high schools to ensure that we have high quality learning opportunities for students? Thank you.